down that old straight track. I'm going home, I'm going back.
Testing.
Things and places that I've seen are just more places that I've been. Now I'm on my way, with my bags all packed. Need no GPS when I'm driving down that old
Testing.
track, full of youthful.
Can you guys hear my audio? Can I get something in the chat? Just so I know you guys are there. Hey John.
When I got there, I would know I was on my way.
Can you hear my voice, John?
With my bags all packed.
Or is it like really? Simone.
I was driving down that old straight track.
Can you guys hear me okay? Both the audio and your voice. Amazing. Can hear everything. Can hear everything. Good. If you guys wouldn't mind holding tight for just a minute, I just want to get a few more. Just give people a chance to just come in.
I was young, I didn't know just how fast the time would go. Find my fortune.
But is everything alright? Hello Emil, how you doing? Good to see you here, man. Thank you for coming on.
Now I'm on my way. Guess I'm going back. Need no GPS when I'm driving down that old straight track.
That's a limitation on my side. It's something I just have to live with. It's to do with my computer, to be honest. My computer's quite old actually. I'll get a new one. Is the audio alright? How's the audio? Okay, I think that's enough people to... Alright, we've got 5 people, that's fine. Hey Chris. Love it. Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Chris. Good to see you here, man. Okay, cool. So, this one is going to be specific about making an album or mastering an album. What we're looking at here is Hoffer DDP Maker. And where this exists in my workflow is I do the audio processing in Logic. So in the case of this client, I got the 6 mix downs from him and I imported them into Logic, and in Logic I spaced them all out, so I had like a diagonal line going from top left down to bottom right on my main window, and I did all the processing on the individual tracks that the audio the mix downs existed on, and I got at that stage I did the audio processing, so EQ and dynamics and everything else on each track, and I got it to a place where I was happy in terms of the sound, but I wasn't focused at that moment. I'm not in that part of the workflow. I'm not focused on the exact like gaps and fades and stuff like that, but I do arrange it in the right order, and I get a rough, I do rough gaps basically. And then what I do is I export all of those clips out as new audio files as 32-bit float. They're all limited, to my you know, -1 true peak headroom. You know, they're all, yeah, they all have their processing on, and then I send those to the client as WAV files, and I say, hey, this is the, these are the kind of what you should hope to expect in terms of the sound of them. And I give them obviously the opportunity to give me some feedback, and I take that feedback on and make any necessary or any requested amendments. And once all that's done, then I bring those 32-bit float files into Hoffer for mastering the album. Any questions about that? Just so you know, there is a bit of... I have quite a few technical limitations on doing these. I hope it's not too bad. But one of those is there's a reasonably long time between when I say, hey, do you have any questions? And you actually answering the questions because of computers and the internet. So any questions about that so far before I move on? I'll just wait a moment and just keeping an eye on that. So yeah, it's, you know, all the audio processing in Logic and then into Hoffer once the client is happy. Because also, to further explain that whilst you guys are typing some questions, it's a better workflow for me. It saves me time, because if I authored the album, if I skipped that, authored the album, and then they had some feedback about a particular audio, a particular single song about the, you know, processing that I did on that, then it's a bit of a, you know, pain for me, and it cost me quite a lot of time to sort that all out, go back to, you know, go back to Logic and then sort that out and then bring that back into... It's not impossible, obviously, it's just, you know, time. Cool. So, Emil, the fades I do hit... So, that's a good question. The fades I do here in Hoffer. So, I don't worry about fades in Logic. I do the fades and the sequencing. I do the album. I master the album, if you like, in Hoffer. I master the songs as an album in Logic, if that makes sense. But I mastered the album in Hoffer. Yeah. The reason I do it in Hoffer is obviously because I can make a DDP, which is valuable to some people. By all means, not everyone these days. But I provide them anyway. Anytime someone asks for, or someone who uses me for an album master, you know, I normally ask, what files do you need? Where are you? What are your intentions? And if they're like, oh, I just need the WAV files for my, you know, CD Baby account or whatever, or other distributor, that's all I need. But I provide a DDP anyway, and this workflow is just, I like this workflow. It allows me to, you know, sequence an album, and yeah, so I bring those in. And as you can see here, I mean, this isn't going to be a full-fledged Hoffer tutorial by any means. To be honest, it's actually really easy to use. You can read the manual probably in about half an hour. Hey, Kev. It's actually really, really easy to use. And the good thing about Hoffer is as well, it won't let you author anything other than a Redbook CD. That's at least that's what I read in the manual. So that's what I believe. But it forces you kind of into a good practice. Chris, I think you use WaveLab, right? I imagine that's got similar things. I mean, WaveLab is like more... it would encompass everything that I do in Logic Pro and this, but I'm a Logic Pro user, and this is like €50. This program, it's really, really good. Yeah, so I bring those in, and then you've got your track list at the top here. And then you put all of the titles in and stuff like that. This customer didn't have ISRC for me, so I haven't got those in there, but they would go in there. album title, album artist, songwriter, you know, all of that stuff. So that's all there. And the transport bar has some really, really cool functions. It's nice that it's got these loudness units as well, and it's got all the same tools pretty much, yeah. And it's got these peak values here, just in case like I forgot to limit the peak ceiling at the value that I limit to. And it's also got a stereo width meter here, or a goniometer. I'm not sure if that's exactly a goniometer, but it looks like a goniometer. That's always good to know, because just in case I accidentally forgot to bypass a mono sum plugin or something like that, you know. They're just kind of sanity checks. It's got an output volume here, which I don't touch. And here is the timeline. This is where we sequence the CD. I might not be using the official Hoffer terms for these things, but this is where we sequence everything. So for your question, this is another really cool feature of Hoffer as well. If you just land your mouse on something, it tells you what it is in that window on the top right there. I think this software is actually really, really good, and I think they're a good company, and they don't give you any kind of, you know, like transferring licenses from one machine to another is easy. There's no ridiculous license managing software. It's just, you know, a really good company. Yeah, it's goniometer. I used to have the Hoffer goniometer, and it looked the same. Yeah, cool. Goniometer. It took me so long to work out how to pronounce goniometer, and if I'm still butchering it, just give me a shout. Just yo, Chris, you're butchering. That's not even what it is. Cool. Now, different mastering engineers do CDs in different ways. My method is like really simplistic. My clients don't usually have any particular like requirements for CDs. I mean, like I said, for me, I kind of provide DDP as a, you know, as an added value, as like, you know, I've done it in Hoffer. I might as well give you the DDP anyway, and it makes for a good master copy. And some online distributors, I think, including CD Baby, will actually take a DDP. I saw that once. Someone might correct me on that, but I do remember looking at a distributor, and they actually accept DDP if you're uploading an album. Anyway, when it comes to sequencing and fades and stuff like that, you've got all of the audio clips here, and I basically just sequence them until it sounds right. You know, I move them around. I listen for the gaps. I do the fades. Oh, I should have saved another copy of this. Anyway, doesn't matter. On the end of the regions here of the clips, you've got these fades, and you've got different types of fades as well. So you can right click on it and do an S fade, or the different fade shapes that are available. And, you know, you kind of just spend some time moving these things around until it feels right. And then in terms of CD start time, some people don't leave a gap. There is actually a pre-gap function. There's a pre-gap feature inside of Hoffer, and it puts a pre-gap in there automatically, which you can also burn to the WAV files, which I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. Some people don't. Some mastering engineers are like, oh, I just put the track start at the beginning of the clip, but I'm a bit too paranoid about doing that, so I actually have just a gap between the start track time and the clip. If I wanted a pre-gap, like a definitive pre-gap of like 2 or 4 seconds, I could create a pre-gap, or it actually creates pre-gaps when I bring them in, and then I can actually, when I save the WAV files, I can actually have Hoffer burn the pre-gap into the WAV files. So that's a thing. So I moved them around, and then I moved the track time, the start the track start marker, as it says there, just so that there's a bit of a gap. And then as I'm doing this, I kind of, I click on the different tracks. I listen to the whole thing as an album, and then I go through them and listen to them one by one. If I feel that, because I also like the feeling that there's a gap before the song if you just play the song from scratch anyway. So I like to know how that feels. And sometimes I actually export the DDP out for myself and then play it in a DDP player and audition the DDP, just so I know before I send to the client. So yeah, you can do you do these fades just by pulling it in either from the right there, this sort of square, or from the left there if you're doing it at the beginning of the clip. And to be honest, it's actually really, really simple. It's as simple as that. Chris, I'm not sure if your method differs at all, or there are things that you do that I don't do, or vice versa. Always interested to hear. But yeah, this is a really, really nice album. It's a nice sort of like country sound album from one of my customers, George Bolam, who I'm really grateful to have given me the permission to show this project to you guys. So any questions, any concerns, any thoughts? It's actually really, really easy to use. Hoffa. It's nice. Chris, I'm not sure if you've had any experience with CD houses or anything like that, and their particular requirements or whatever. For anyone who doesn't know, Chris Pavey, who's in the stream, he's a mastering engineer based in Cambridge. Knows his stuff. Good guy. Wow, that delay is pretty long. Yeah, it's very much up to the client. So yeah, so most of my clients, they don't have any particular requirements. I try and talk to them about it. I say, oh look, how do you feel about this and about that? And they're like, oh, they either don't care or they're like, oh, some quite a few people, which I'm really surprised about. Quite a few people say, oh, I kind of want you to make that decision. I want you to feel it out and do what's best. And I'm like, oh, that's great, and I love it because doing the gaps and the fades is like a very delicate art. I'm sure you would agree, Chris, and anyone else. And it's quite a lot of fun. But I haven't dealt with like a CD pressing plant for a very, very long time, or playback through. That is the time it's most important. For gapless playback, though, that is the time it's most important. Sure. Indeed. Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, like streaming platforms, they've got these different features. I mean, iTunes have had this for a while. That is all set correctly, and you don't have a random pause between a track. Yeah, sure. Indeed. So in this case, when this one is pushed to a streaming platform, the song will just start as soon as you hit it on Spotify or what have you. There'll be no pre-gap, but the DDP will have gaps. CD houses mostly relaxed as long as the DDP all comes in one folder. Yeah, they have more or less the same functionality, including DDP. The only plus is that I can use Triumph as an audio editor as well. Oh, excellent. Yeah, so in this case, the WAV files. Okay, so this is something else I need to explain. So here I write DDP, and it writes the DDP folder, and it also has an option to create a zip of the DDP folder as well, which is really, really useful. But here I can save every WAV file individually, or I save all of them as WAV files using this. Is that floppy disk icon? A save icon? When I do that, there are no gaps. Unless I use the pre-gap feature, which I can burn into the WAV file, include pre-gap of track in audio file. So you've got plenty of options. You can accommodate all of the different options using Hoffer. Any other questions or comments about that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Chris, I believe you can. Indeed, it's not something that I do personally. I'm not sure if it includes it in the folder. I don't think it does. The way that I get the client to sign off the DDP is either they download a DDP player, or actually that's basically it. Yeah, they downloaded a DDP player. Order pause time, CD info, etc. But that's practically it, guys. Any more questions? I just wanted to show you guys this last part, this kind of last part of an album master that I tend to do in the way that I tend to do it. It should also be noted as well that when you burn a DDP or when you burn the WAV files in Hoffer, that all goes, obviously because it's CD, down to 44.116 dithered, as do the WAV files. But the way I use it is pretty basic. But I recommend that if you're doing CD masters or if you're looking to venture into it, Hoffer's a great way to go. Or just album masters in general for a good workflow. Let's have a listen.
Driving down that old straight track, I'm going home, I'm going back. Things and places that I've seen are just more places that I've been. Now I'm on my way, with my bags all packed. Need no GPS when I'm driving down that.
Hi John, I imagine you can. I haven't done it myself, so I don't know how, but yeah, I imagine that you can. But if you look into the Hoffer manual, it'll be apparent to you if it's there. I'm sure you should be able to.
Straight track, full of youthful, foolish schemes. I left my home to find a dream. No idea where I go. When I got there, I would know I was on my way. with my bags all packed. Had no GPS. I was driving down that old straight track. Just how fast the time would go. Found my fortune, found my fame, around the world and round again. Now I'm on my way. Guess I'm going back. Need no GPS when I'm driving down that old straight track.
Any more questions or comments at all? Doesn't have to be just asking me questions or just having a discussion about mastering or anything in general. Awesome. I'll let it run through a bit, and not for too long, but I'll let it run through a bit. And any comments you might have, fire away.
And I'll be out of sight. The sheriff's out to get me, but he won't get it right. And I'll be out again tomorrow night. Times got tough, times got hard, out in the woods in my old scrapyard. Me and my partner hatched a scheme, raise some money 'cause we got dreams. Moonshine, whiskey, that's the stuff. Folks round here can't get enough. Now I'm richer than the man I've been. Yippee-ki-yo, the moon's real low in the western sky tonight. Them dark old clouds are scudding in, and I'll be out of sight. The sheriff's out to get me.
Some great tracks, aren't they, guys?
And I'll be out again tomorrow night.
Hey Phil, cool. So yeah, simple as that. And but if you got any more questions or anything like that, or any more comments or pieces of feedback, then give me a shout, either straight, directly, or you can comment on the group. I posted this into the group about 15 minutes before I started, so any comments or anything like that, just give me a shout. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to respond to that, just in case, before I close off. Pretty short stream today. I'm keeping these short and sweet. I'm gonna my original commitment was to do these weekly. Going forward, it might be like once a month, to be honest with you. It's just it's a lot to arrange, and I have to kind of like not troubleshoot, but set up for like a good half an hour before, just to make sure it's working, and stuff like that. So yeah, but I'll keep doing them. They're just a bit intense. But I hope they're useful. They're quite informal though. And thanks for everyone for the comments, of course. Sorry also about the video aspect and everything like that. It sucks. I'm just limited with that. The once I've closed this off though, or sometime after that, this same link will be available to watch over for you, Phil, or anyone else who was late to the party. But I do highly recommend Hoffer. It's just a nice program to use, to be honest with you. Does the job. I use this. There's a plugin version. I don't really know how that would work. I went for the standalone version because it allows me to kind of like have a staged workflow. But workflows are subjective. You know, you might prefer to have the plugin version. For me, that was just like, felt like a bit too many moving parts all in one, you know? I'm not sure if anyone has got actually experience with the plugin version of Hoffer DDP. Cool. In that case, I'm gonna call it a night. And any more comments, just throw them in the Unlock Your Sound group. So yeah, I'll speak to you later.